What if 2026 was the year that you felt 10 years younger? The reality is, we are all just one fall away from a crisis. Most people tend to think that retirement planning ends with spreadsheets. But if you got money, but you don't have mobility or a sense of community, you've kind of missed the point all these years. Today, I'm going to share 6 pillars that I'm going to focus on in 2026 to help me stay independent, organized, and engaged. And under health, I'm going to focus in on one that my goal is to relieve the caregiver burden on my child later in life. First thing up is health. One of the main reasons why I did make the decision to retire early was my health. I could tell that the path that I was on, the trajectory that I was going, which I've talked about some in the past, was not good. And my doctors were telling me the same thing. I was still in good health, but I was overweight. I was not eating correctly. I was not exercising at all. I was under a tremendous amount of stress with work. And I was starting to show the signs of going the direction of bad health. My blood pressure was starting to creep up. My weight was way out of control. And my mobility was just getting very bad. And I realized real quick I had to get a hold of that. So when the opportunity came along to be able to retire early, one of my main goals with that was I'm going to focus on my health and make it better. What I've done is I have started exercising. My goal is 3 times a week. If I can get in more, great. I walk during that time frame, usually between 3 and 4 miles, try to make a good brisk walk out of it, get my heart rate up and feel good. And the thing is that I feel better. I'm a whole lot more mobile because they say motion is lotion. And I firmly believe that. But some of the late life benefits of this is huge. And starting early with this in your 50s before it gets out of control is key. There's 4 things here that I think that is really key as we get to later in life as to why exercising and focusing on your health is important. One is hedging against the possibility of going into a nursing home, which has major financial impacts along with emotional burdens on family members. Which takes me to the second point. That is the hedging against the demands that could possibly happen on your adult children. Not only having to deal with you possibly in a nursing home situation, but also being able to have to help you manage your daily activities. If you're not in the nursing home, your financial activities, all the stuff that come with that. If we can focus on our health, we can minimize that. The goal here is to create a longer, independent quality of life, and you have to stay engaged to make that happen. And I got to tell you, I've experienced this firsthand. I was a caregiver for an aunt and a caregiver for a niece and a caregiver for my mother that lasted about a 15 to 20 year period. I did mainly the finances of this thing and I shared the caregiving with my sister. But over that period of time, it took its toll. And it was a whole lot for me to try to factor and build into my regular day. So my goal is to minimize that on my child and make sure that they don't have to deal with that if it's all possible. That brings me to number 2, the importance of community. Social engagement, I think, is extremely important. If you have social isolation, you start reducing your cognitive skills, you reduce your physical skills, you're not moving, and you start actually, I think you can start having some memory challenges. So it's good to keep your mind engaged and moving and active, just like it is your physical body. And some of the things I'm looking at to do that, and I haven't started it yet, but it is some goals of mine. As some of you know, and I've discussed, I am a former United States Marine. Early in my life, uh, spent one tour of duty in Iraq, and there is what's called the Marine Corps League, and that is with other Marines, like-minded, like experiences that I can get with on a weekly or monthly basis, share our expenses or share our experiences, and be able to stay mentally engaged and sharp and happy, and the camaraderie that comes along with that to keep you motivated. Something else you can consider, my example there is the Marine Corps League is a local community organization, but something else you could look at would be, if you're an engineer, for example, and you live in a city where they've got, trade associations that are associated with the engineering field, you could join those trade associations. I know you're no longer employed, you're no longer engaged from an employee perspective, but that would give you the opportunity to have weekly and monthly meetings with people of like mind and be able to go ahead and still utilize the skills that you have, in your trade and be able to share that with others, maybe find some mentoring opportunities. But it would give you something to do to be able to stay involved, with your local uh, community. It would help you with your communal engagement, and it would help you with your mental aspect as well. That takes me to number 3, financial. So here's some things I'm looking at going into 2026. One of the big things to start off with would be probably the financial organization. One of the things that's very important to do, and that is to, if you don't have this yet, is to create a central location where you can keep all your end of life type documents, where you would keep maybe all your insurance policies, your 401k statements, along with the passwords that would be associated with those accounts, a personal financial statement that shows all the assets you own, the liabilities you currently have, and then have that mapped out to where they can not only see it on the financial statement, but they're able to go and find links, the ability to access the accounts, and so forth. Also, make sure that you're looking at beneficiaries on any of those top accounts and make sure you have those set up correctly. That is very important because if something happens and you don't have it organized, you can only imagine what it would be like for your loved ones trying to go through and recreate and re-understand how your financial flow is working. The next thing is that I've got planned, and I got to give kudos to Joe Kuhn. I think Joe, I hope I didn't say your name wrong, but Joe Kuhn's channel is a great channel. I recommend you check it out. And one of the systems that he talks about is the Boldin software, financial planning software. I plan on actually creating an account later today and looking through that and understanding that better. Because I had been managing my retirement plan and my projections and everything going forward in spreadsheets. And it has become very cumbersome. I have to do a lot of manual analysis to bring it all together into some sort of uh, cohesive view. So I am going to be looking at Boldin. And one of the other reasons I'm going to be looking into Boldin or some sort of financial planning system like that is to be able to create some sort of a snapshot document and have a central location to go back to what I just talked about. And that is to have a central depository space for your end of life documents. And if I could have a financial picture document that's mapped out maybe through Boldin, for example, it would make that burden a lot less on my spouse or heirs or whoever is there upon my death. Another thing to look at, and I'm going to consider, is any kind of unused subscriptions that you may have. I'm talking about like Netflix or TV subscriptions, any kind of subscriptions you may have that you've forgotten you've even signed up for, and they just come out of your either paycheck occasionally or they hit your credit card. Go back, look at those, and make sure whatever you have out there is being utilized. If not, get rid of it. Another big thing to look at, and I'm going to look at in 2026, is going to be insurance renewals, homeowners, auto, any insurance policies I may have on my business interest, my real estate. One of the challenges we're seeing right now has been inflation, which has been going on for quite some time. And inflation has an impact on all of those issues. And how it does that is inflation creates the cost of materials to go up, the cost of production of autos, manufacturing buildings, whatever it may be, that goes up. As the cost goes up on materials and production, that means that they're also more costly to fix and repair in the event of an insurance loss. So what happens? Your insurance premiums in turn go up to compensate for that increased cost in the event of an accident. I know that you have loyalty to your agent, so I'm not saying be disloyal, but you need to look into this subject, because if you just let things renew over and over and over and you're not checking the market to see how competitive it is, you can find yourself paying a whole lot in the way of premiums more than what you should be. And that inflationary creep will get you big time. I just mentioned inflationary creep. So some of the other things I want to look at within that, I've got identified is cell services. Cell phones and internet services as well, they tend to always get you into these initial setups where you go in, you're paying a low initial fee or initial premium or initial monthly outlay, only come to find out about 12 months later, it goes up greatly. So I recommend, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into my current plans and see where I stand on cell phones, internet. The same thing holds true for cable, and it also holds true for trash. And if you're in a state that has unregulated utilities, you can also look into your utilities to see if there's any optimization there as well. Next thing I have on my 2026 focus items of focus is going to be my spiritual life. I do think having a spiritual life is important. Having time to get into a quiet room, um, speak to your maker, and get your daily mindset and your daily thought process in order. And then also to be able to have those more meaningful conversations with our Creator around your life, what you want to have happen in the future, and of course, making sure that you are in the proper hands for when that end of life period comes. Another thing I'm going to focus on this year is going to be home improvements. And like I've talked about in some other videos, there is really no return on investment typically with a home improvement. Okay. So I've got one particular home improvement that is a quality of life improvement. And I'm going to focus on looking into that. I'm going to focus on hopefully trying to get it done if it's affordable. What that is I'm going to do a project that's going to involve opening the back part of my garage up onto a patio by installing a new overhead door and a new covered area that would give us an additional space to hang out outside in the summertime when we're enjoying the outside aspects of our home, the swimming pool, the patio, and when we have people over, being able to have an area that's covered, gets you out of the sun, and this gives a good overall flow from the house, the kitchen, out to the backyard. The quality of life for that would be invaluable, and I've already got it visualized in my mind. Now I just got to get it done. Now there's not going to be any return on investment with that. It's going to be somewhat costly, but the quality of life and the function and the flow that will create will be perfect, and it will definitely make me happy. The last area, and like I said, none of these were really in order. I just kind of put them out here. The last area I want to focus on this year is going to be hobbies. And that is, I've talked about before, barbecue is my main passion and hobby. I love it. I have for years. I've done it competitively. We judge as well. Me and my wife, we do that throughout the year under the competitive barbecue circuit. And I'm always going to be focused on that. Always going to be looking at how can I improve that particular passion and go from there. But I'm also going to look at some new hobbies. What are some new things I can take on that I can kind of scatter throughout my day and throughout my week that will bring quality of life, happiness, and give me other areas to focus on. So those are 6 things that my focus is going to be on going into 2026. And I'd be curious to see, what maybe the 6 or 7 things that you're going to be focused on as well. I do think it's good to stay engaged, and I would love to get your feedback. So please drop a comment down below and let me know what's your 2026 focus. Hey, if today's video resonated with you, please subscribe to my channel. Please hit that like button to push this content out to more viewers. And I do appreciate you watching. I'm Mike, and I will see you on the next episode.